Good evening, you're watching London Live News at 6 with Helena Warrior. Coming up tonight, the new head of the Metropolitan Police sets up a new anti-corruption command to remove officers found to have engaged in acts of racism, homophobia or other abuse. It comes after a BBC investigation alleged a former officer had been posting racist content on WhatsApp. Has the cost of living put us off our holidays? We look into new research that suggests Brits are still booking getaways, though maybe less luxurious ones. We'll have an update on London's weather in the next 10 minutes. Plus, the NFL returns to the capital this weekend. We've been down to Tottenham Hotspur's stadium as they prepare for the game. And known for iconic neon pieces, artist Lauren Baker is bringing her work to the walls of the Saatchi with a strong message about unity and environmental sustainability. First tonight, though, the new head of the Metropolitan Police has said people will be removed from the force for ghastly acts. It comes after a BBC investigation alleged a former officer had been posting racist content on WhatsApp. Sir Mark Rowley, who became commissioner last month, said there are a range of reforms that can be put in place to be more assertive in identifying people in the force who are problematic through misogyny, homophobia, sexism or other abuse. One such reform is a new anti-corruption and abuse command of 100 detectives using similar tactics during investigations of major crimes to target those engaged in corrupt relationships with criminals or those whose behaviour corrupts public trust. Well, Sir Mark Rowley added, "We will be proactive and unrelenting in actively seeking out these criminal colleagues." A 15-year-old boy has been sentenced to life with a minimum term of 15 years for killing a father of 3 in East London. 45-year-old James Markham was stabbed when he brandished a drill bit at a group of youths who had shouted at his daughter. He was wounded in the back, armpit and chest by the 15-year-old, fatally piercing his lung. A jury at the Old Bailey heard there had been problems with antisocial behaviour near the flats in Chingford where he lived. The judge described Mr. Markham as a hard-working stonemason with his own business who worked hard to support and bring up his family. The father of 14-year-old Molly Russell, who took her own life 5 years ago while suffering from depression, has called for independent regulation of online platforms. An inquest found social media material contributed more than minimally to Molly's suicide in 2017, with the coroner ruling she saw images that shouldn't have been available for a child to see. Well, Molly's father, Ian Russell, said online platforms must stop self-regulating their content and added he was concerned the government's online safety bill would be delayed. Well, the Culture Secretary, Michelle Donnellan, called Mr. Russell to assure him the bill would get a third reading in the House of Commons before Christmas. Now, the Mayor of London has insisted he remains committed to tackling road pollution despite a backlash against his proposed expansion of the ultra-low emission zone. About 2/3 of respondents to a consultation on widening the ULEZ across Greater London are reportedly opposed. However, Sadiq Khan, in an interview with the Evening Standard, said the consultation was not a numbers game and added that it was vital to further reduce the threat to public health from toxic air. Well, Mr. Khan also added he believed the consultation had been hijacked by opponents, including people living outside the capital. Well, a report on the consultation results from Transport for London is due next month, and a final decision will be made on whether to go ahead with plans to expand the £12.50 a day ULEZ across all 33 boroughs on August 29th next year. Avanti West Coast has been given a deadline by the government to improve its services, with the Transport Secretary saying it provided an unacceptable level of service to rail users. The train company has been given until April the 1st next next year to improve, following a reduction of its trains from 7 trains per hour to a minimum of 4 per hour. Well, this involved running just an hourly service in each direction between Manchester and London at the busiest times. Trains were removed from the timetable in August to cut short-notice cancellations after a sharp decline in the number of drivers voluntarily working for extra pay. Well, talking of train timetables, just a reminder that the rail industry has said passengers should avoid travelling by train unless absolutely necessary tomorrow due to expected widespread disruption from strikes. Unions are striking as part of a long-running series of disputes over jobs, pay and conditions. Only a fifth of trains are set to run on Saturday, as RMT union members in 15 rail companies and Network Rail will strike. Here in the capital, Transport for London and the London Underground are not taking part in the strikes. However, the London Overground and some tube services will be impacted on strike days, including limited services on the Bakerloo and District lines. Environmental activists have blocked roads in central London for a 7th day as part of their campaign to stop future gas and oil projects in the UK from going ahead. Around 25 protesters from the Just Stop Oil campaign sat down and glued themselves to roads to the north and south of Vauxhall Bridge earlier today. Footage shows drivers becoming aggravated and attempting to drag people away in order to get past, as well as police speaking to and removing some activists. Well, also today in central London, animal rights activists have protested against the use of dairy products by pouring out milk in 2 high-end London department stores. 2 activists from Animal Rebellion entered Fortnum and Mason in Piccadilly this morning, where they took milk from the shelves and emptied it onto the floor of the shop. Well, later, a video shows them in Selfridges pouring milk over a cheese display. The activists were then escorted to the exit by security staff. The action comes the day before Animal Rebellion planned to occupy the capital with a demonstration and a march beginning at Green Park tomorrow morning. Right, let's take a look at some sports in the capital now. And Arsenal will face Liverpool this weekend as they look to consolidate their place at the top of the Premier League. The club won 9 of their opening 10 matches in all competitions this season. Well, in a pre-match press conference, manager Mikel Arteta has told Arsenal's centre-back William Saliba to ignore comparisons with Virgil van Dijk ahead of the match on Sunday.
I think the way he has established himself, I think the composure and leadership that he's shown on the pitch, and then he's done it in a really natural way without any flashy lights, just being himself, be very quiet and at the same time very confident.
And can he hit the heights of Virgil van Dijk?
Wow, that's a big question.
It is a big call.
I think I'm really happy with where he's at the moment. He's Saliba, he's no one else, and he needs to make his own career. Again, another really exciting game to play in front of our people against one of the toughest opponents in this league. So it's going to be a really demanding match that's going to require us to be at our best again.
There we go. Arsenal play Liverpool at the Emirates at 4:30 on Sunday. Well, also in sport, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn were forced to cancel tomorrow night's fight after Benn was found to have tested positive for trace amounts of a fertility drug which increases testosterone levels. Well, Eubank Jr. has been hitting out on social media after being forced to lose weight to take on the fight. The pair were due to clash at the O2 in a fight which would see both following in their father's footsteps. Promoter Eddie Hearn explained the fight will be rescheduled.
We took our time with Wasserman Boxing and we made a decision that we felt was in the best interests of the parties involved. This is a sport that is very, very dear to us, a sport that we've been around our entire life. And whilst we were desperate for this fight to take place, for the fans, for the undercard fighters, we also made a decision that we felt we had to at this time, especially considering the interest of the sport and the British public as well. We will be keeping you up to speed with everything as we move forward with the postponement of this fight. Tickets will be available for customers to refund immediately from the O2 Arena or point of purchase, and we will be back in touch with the media and the public soon in terms of this new scheduled date for this fight.
There we go. That was Eddie Hearn there. Right, let's just take a look at the weather in the capital now. It's a clear night this evening with overnight lows dipping into single digits before a sunny and dry start to Saturday that should continue throughout the day. The sun will stay on Sunday, but it will be met with clouds before the possibility of some strong winds and showers to close out the weekend. More of the same on Monday morning, sunny intervals and a gentle breeze with highs of 17. Well, just before the break, let's bring you this. Pink has announced details of her 2023 UK Stadium Tour, which starts in Bolton and includes performances here in the capital as part of BST Hyde Park. The tour, dubbed Pink Summer Carnival, will end in London at the iconic Hyde Park with 2 gigs, as an extra date was added due to high demand. Right, it's time for a short break now, but when we come back, a public health campaign has been launched to inform people on the dangers of nitrous oxide, also known as laughing gas, after one doctor speaks of a steep rise in spinal injuries in young people who use the drug. More after the break.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to London Live News. Now, East London's Queen Mary University has launched a public health campaign to inform of the dangers of nitrous oxide, a recreational drug widely known as laughing gas. Well, postgraduate students have begun by reaching out to youth groups in Tower Hamlets amid concerns that people are oblivious to the risk of nerve damage. Well, Dr. Alistair Noyce has seen a steep rise in spinal injuries in young people due to the use of the drug, and Paul spoke to him earlier.
Nitrous oxide is a colourless gas that's contained in canisters, and then people inhale the gas from the balloon, and it produces a short dissociative happy effect, if you like, a high that is very enjoyable to people, and I mean that people, once they start using nitrous oxide, tend to want to use it with regularity. Some of the patients are linking, and so are we now, linking the increased amount of harm to these much larger canisters. So it started off with small canisters that people would consume 50 or 100 in a session, but each one of the large canisters is equivalent to 80 small canisters. And so people are using those in vast quantities, equivalent of hundreds of canisters in one session.
What are some of the problems of nitrous oxide use in terms of spinal and nervous system damage?
So I think the full picture of the harm that nitrous oxide can cause is still to be elucidated. What we have seen over the past few years, and increasingly so, is mainly young people presenting to the hospital, to the emergency department, with loss of sensation in their arms and legs, difficulty walking, some to the extent that they have to be assisted into the hospital or come on crutches or in a wheelchair, but also problems going to the toilet, so with the bladder and bowels, and also sexual dysfunction as well. People describe symptoms of low mood and depression when they're not taking nitrous oxide. But I think that the thing to say is that these are the people we know about that are coming into hospital. We suspect that there is a burden of disease that's out there in the community for people who perhaps haven't had those crescendo type symptoms, but have chronic symptoms that may also be attributable to nitrous oxide.
What that you were observing triggered you to kind of push this issue forwards to a campaign? Was it was there more cases that you were seeing? Was it, an alarming number?
We definitely saw a rise in cases. We saw that it was, as I said, mainly young people in East London, particularly those from minoritized ethnic groups, the South Asian population. And when I talked to people, to the patients that came in, I realized that myself as a kind of middle-aged doctor probably didn't connect to them as well, or connect with them as well as I might hope to advise them and their peers of the risk. So then what we did was we decided to set up a campaign within the medical school with the medical students who are much closer in age to the people who are using and abusing nitrous oxide. And that campaign, the Know the Risks campaign, which is led by Devon Mayer, who's a Queen Mary University of London medical student, has really gone from strength to strength. So they've done quite a lot of community engagement events. They've done focus groups with young people and users of nitrous oxide. They have gone into schools and colleges to advise teenagers and young adults of the risks. And it's those kind of community level interventions that I think will be particularly helpful.
So what do you hope will come of this campaign? Are you hoping to shock people, or is it more of a case of education and empowerment?
We're hoping to raise awareness in the community because, once people present to hospital with the signs and symptoms of nerve damage or spinal cord damage, we don't know at that point how reversible it is. So we want to get out in front of this with primary prevention, tell people that particularly heavy levels of nitrous oxide use are associated with neurological harm, and try to advise people of those risks and make them reconsider that its use as a recreational drug. I think the thing I would like to add, though, is that for people who do have symptoms and are using nitrous oxide heavily, the best chance for improvement of those symptoms is to attend either their GP or the hospital early, stop taking nitrous oxide immediately, and the sooner we can start treatment with B12 injections, we think the better chance of recovery.
There we are, Dr. Alistair Noyce speaking to Paul. Now, almost 2/3 of Brits have already booked or planned a holiday for next year, but 20% expect to forego some of their usual travel luxuries to cut costs. Concerns about the cost of living crisis haven't put people off their travel plans completely, though, with nearly 50% saying they've reserved a place in the sun as something to look forward to, with weather and economic gloom on the horizon. Well, Vasil Jagala is from the World Travel Market, who are behind the research, and I spoke to him earlier.
The World Travel Market research shows that it's not putting off completely. I think over 65% of people are still very keen to go on holidays next year. They make some adjustments, but it's still actually over 35% even looking to do 2 holidays next year, and I think family holidays quite popular. But where we've seen maybe a slight reduction, it's city breaks and maybe romantic getaways, sort of a shorter holidays.
OK, so people are still looking to book holidays, but what are the holiday habits that maybe they're adjusting due to having to tighten the purse strings a bit?
Yes, what we see that probably over 40% of people will maybe not go for as luxurious hotel, so maybe trade 5-star for 4-star or 4-star for 3-star. Definitely switching maybe to budget airlines or the seats which with a little bit of leg rooms, and as well maybe extra luggage allowance. It's just taking a little bit of overall cost of holidays.
And so do you think that especially as it turns to winter here, that people are booking holidays for something to look forward to, really?
Yes, I think we can clearly see that the sun destinations are the most popular. Of course, it's a winter sun, mostly Middle East, and which is obviously coming up now, and a lot of people going there. But it's been a strong recovery in Caribbeans and in Mexico as well. So a lot of people going further afield.
Were you at all surprised by this research? Because I think some viewers might be surprised because they might think that the cost of living crisis has hit so hard that people would be not being able to go on holiday.
We've seen a very strong recovery throughout the year in travel. This is the latest research, but of course, situation evolves on daily basis or weekly, daily basis. Not really, because what we see when destinations open up, and the first wave, of course, is friends and families. And people haven't seen each other for a long time, particularly the long haul. Some Asia or Latin America, and the demand is very strong. But as I said, once the evenings become longer and it gets colder, people just want to get away and enjoy sun.
Absolutely. Well, does this research then suggest that the health of the travel industry is pretty good generally?
Yes, I think Europe recovered very, very well this summer. As I mentioned, Central America and North America as well. Middle East stayed out open throughout. I think they've been doing very, very well. And what we've seen in the last few months is, of course, long haul Asian destinations are gradually start opening up, like Thailand and obviously Australia and New Zealand opening up. So we see some traffic recovering there as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that some things that people were willing to give up, for example, were more legroom or that extra luggage allowance. What were people not so willing to give up with their holidays?
I think what we see from our research that people still interested maybe in cultural aspect as well. So just to go and see some historical destinations, but the preference still it should be both sun and a bit of cultural bit as well.
You're watching London Live News with Helena Warrior. Reminder of our top story coming up after the break. Plus, the NFL returns to the capital this weekend, and we've been down to Tottenham Hotspur's stadium as they prepare for the game. See you soon.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to London Live News, a reminder of some of the stories affecting Londoners today. The new head of the Metropolitan Police has said people will be removed from the force for ghastly acts. It comes after a BBC investigation alleged a former officer had been posting racist content on WhatsApp. Sir Mark Rowley, who became Commissioner last month, said there are a range of reforms that can be put in place to be more assertive in identifying people in the force who are problematic through misogyny, homophobia, sexism or other abuse. A 15-year-old boy has been sentenced to life with a minimum term of 15 years for killing a father of 3 in East London. 45-year-old James Markham was stabbed when he brandished a drill bit at a group of youths who had shouted at his daughter. He was wounded in the back, armpit and chest by the 15-year-old, fatally piercing his lung. The judge described Mr. Markham as a hard-working stonemason with his own business who worked hard to support and bring up his family. Now, the NFL returns to the capital at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium once again this weekend. The Green Bay Packers will be playing the New York Giants on Spurs' state-of-the-art new American football pitch. Well, James went to the ground to see the stadium ditch the soccer field as they get ready for what should be a packed-out game. And he spoke with Kilburn-born ex-pro Jack Crawford.
I'm here at Tottenham Hotspur's Stadium as this Sunday the Green Bay Packers will take on the New York Giants in the NFL London Games. Well, I caught up with Jack Crawford, former star of the NFL, about what he thinks about the spectacle, bringing a team to London potentially in the NFL, and he tried to sell me American football as a die-hard soccer fan. Jack, thank you for chatting with me today. Yeah, thank you very much for coming on the show. Let's start with this stadium first of all. Yeah. It's quite a coliseum. You've played in a hell of a lot of places around the US. How does this compare for Sunday?
Well, first of all, I am a little bit salty that I never got the opportunity to play in the stadium after coming to last week's game and last year's game here. It's the atmosphere here feels a little bit different than when I played back in the UK in Wembley. It's weird because it's like a state-of-the-art NFL stadium that I would go to in America, but it's here in London. And there's just something about the fans here that, like, they're so enthusiastic that they bring the same level of, like, intensity and, you know, enthusiasm to every play. Every catch, every field goal that's kicked. I mean, it really don't matter which team is doing it. They just love the game. And I could see some of the players on the field get hyped for that. They responded to the fans and just the passion that the fans were showing. And, you know, it just kind of brought me back a little bit, man. It made me feel like I wish I got to experience that.
Well, talk to us a little bit about NFL in London. You talk about the fans and what they've brought to the whole spectacle here. There was some talk that perhaps there could be an NFL team in London, maybe move the Jacksonville Jaguars over here. That might not happen, and the Mayor Sadiq Khan said, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a team over here? What do you think of that? Do you think that would be a good thing? Do you think that would take off? And would the American fans, you know, get behind it?
I would love to see it. Like, I would love to see someone try and do it, but honestly, it's not, I don't think it's as realistic. I don't think it's that feasible. How would you do the schedule? Because you would be exhausted traveling back and forward to the States. If you had to play a game against the LA Rams and you're a London team, you would be traveling 12 hours just to go and play somebody, and then you're 12 hours back to come practice. It just goes against the nature of the work week in the NFL. And we put everything into the practice, and everything into recovery, that you would just be at a disadvantage playing for this team. So I think that you have to kind of look at it differently. I think that the game is growing. All right, well, how do we expand? All right, now we basically have to increase the level of competition of American football in Europe, in Africa, in other parts of the world. I don't think we should be looking at bringing a team from the NFL and putting it here. The NFL is the NFL. That's the cream of the crop. But there's nothing underneath the NFL. They're trying to do it in America, but it's tough because everybody wants to make it to the NFL and nobody's willing to invest in the level under the NFL. But I think there's a lot of talent here in Europe. I think there's a lot of talent all over the world. And I think if you bring this sport and you bring it to Europe, you bring it to the rest of the world, I think it's going to continue to grow because I truly think it's the best team game that exists. And I just think people don't know the rules yet. That's it. And I think that, and I never grew up an American football fan. I didn't even like American football when I played it. But when I started to learn more about it, I started to understand the strategy of it. And once you understand the strategy, you start to become invested, and you start to see why coaches do this, why players make these decisions. And you start to say, all right, this isn't a slow game. People in Europe think it's just start, stop, start, stop. I don't understand it, it's boring.
All right, sell it to me then, because I would usually come to this at a stadium to watch a Premier League game.
Yes.
Sunday, very different spectacle.
Yes.
For someone, a layman, when it comes to NFL, tell me why I should really get invested in it, particularly someone that might think, there is a lot of stop-start.
It's intense. And a lot of other sports, and I'll compare it to basketball. Like basketball has 60 or 80, I can't remember how many games a year. Baseball has 100-something games a year. Soccer, it has, I don't know how many games are in the season. Football right now has 17. They only just increased that by one game. So the intensity of every single play, it matters. And you can see that, the reflection of that on the field. And that transfers to the fans, because once you understand the sport, you realize how much is on the line for these guys on the field. And football is, people in the NFL, we say NFL stands for not for long, because the NFL career is so short. And you can sense that. I mean, everyone's on edge on the NFL. My NFL career, I spent trying to survive. Everybody knows these big names, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Saquon Barkley, these big players come in. You're talking about 0.1% of the NFL. The rest of us are fighting to stay alive. And you can see that come on the field. And the more you learn about the sport, the more you understand about what's at stake for everybody. The more you understand about, the nature of this business. As soon as we sign you, we're looking for your replacement. That's how, so you're never comfortable in the league. And I think that every business could take a little bit of lesson from the NFL, because once you allow somebody to get comfortable, they take their position for granted. NFL, they don't allow that. NFL is as soon as you sign you take your position for granted, and that's reflected in the sport. And when you get invested in it, and once you start to learn the rules, you'll see it.
Yeah. Let's talk about those close competitive games then, given what's happening on Sunday. The Green Bay Packers, New York Giants. What we're expecting for that? Who's the favourite? Tell us a bit about.
And I hate speculating. Obviously, I'm just fresh out of the league, so I understand what it's like. Hearing people speculate is like, you're talking about something else. We're worried about our job and winning the game. And I've been parts of games where I've gone into a situation where I've been on a team like the Giants, and we've gone into the Packers, played the Packers in their stadium, and we've beat them on their home field, in front of their home fans who are crazy, in the freezing cold in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So, football is any given Sunday, man, and anything can happen. I don't like speculating in this sport because it's not worth it, man. Anyone can come out. I mean, you never know how the travel's going to affect them. I mean, the Giants only coming from New York. They might just be, it's short flight. They might be ready to go. Who knows? Green Bay have to come ready to play. They might be getting complacent.
Well, any given Sunday, who knows what might happen.
Any
Jack,
given
thank
Sunday.
you very much.
Yeah, man, of course.
There we go, James there in the stadium, leaving out most of the footage of him dropping the ball, I see. The Green Bay Packers versus the New York Giants is at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday in the NFL games, 2:30 start. Time for a final break now, but when we come back, new initiative Dine London is encouraging us to fall back in love with restaurants, and one TikTok star known as the Potato Queen lends her support to the campaign. Stay with us.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to the final part of London Live News. Now known for her iconic neon pieces, artist Lauren Baker is bringing her work to the walls of the Saatchi. Exploring human connection and spirituality, she uses natural materials to create art with a strong message about unity and environmental sustainability. Well, Tanya has been speaking to her about the showcase at the Start Art Fair in West London, bringing together over 70 emerging and established artists.
For this show, I've been, for like say a year now, I've been really obsessed with symbolism. So like ancient and contemporary symbolism. And I've been designing these totems. And so really I've been focused on like the symbolism connected to climate change. So I'm thinking about, you know, the symbol for chaos and poison, and then I'm thinking about how we need wisdom and knowledge in order to change the situation. And so I'm looking at these kind of symbols, and then also like symbols of obviously nature, but consciousness and hope and love and peace. So I'm bringing these ancient and contemporary symbols in this like totemic form, but exploring it through materials, like constantly innovating on materials. So like now I'm looking at cactus, apple peels, like pineapple peel, and so on. Just really like going to depths with different new materials to innovate. And these would be in the form of like fabric wall hangings, like really, really large, because the Saatchi gallery I've showed there before, and it's got these beautiful, huge, expansive, like 5 meter ceiling walls. So I wanted to, really explore that space and go really big in totemic form.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of space to work with. And interesting there that it's not only sustainable necessarily in the message that you're sending, but also in the actual materials that you're using to make the art. You're really well known for some of your incredible neon pieces. This is, I guess, a step away from that, an evolution into something new. You mentioned there you're sort of inspired by what's happening in the world around us. It's hard, not to be attuned to this, climate being one of those. What are the other things that have sort of fed into your messages really behind what you want to tell in your art?
I've been an artist for over 10 years now, and like spirituality and creativity have been like this woven web of exploration and very interconnected. And every few years I tend to do like a huge trip abroad. It tends to be in Central South America. And just recently, like this year, I was in Mexico, and I was exploring deeper, and I did the Cambo frog poison. And I did that first, and then a week later, a week later, I did the 10 days of silence, which was very intense, beautiful, cosmic, magical experience of from 7 in the morning till 10 p.m. at night. I was meditating, and I only had like 3 breaks to eat. And at this point, and the only other thing we were allowed to do apart from like eat was we were allowed to write. So I spent my time, other than meditating, I was writing, and I started writing these letters, and the letters were like love letters. So they were like love letters to myself, to my ex, to my future lovers, to the sun, to earth, to the universe, to the stars. They were really beautiful. It was like I was an open channel, and I was just flowing. And so when I got back, I spoke the letters out loud and recorded them through software into sound waves, and then photographed that, and then I burnt each letter as this cathartic process of like letting go. But at the same time, I wanted to like immortalize the energy of this whole process and the letter by like choosing beautiful threads and canvas, and I sewed the sound waves of each letter. And so this is like a series, each one is completely unique. And yeah, so this is a series that I'm sewing at the moment, and I'm going to be releasing some of these at the Saatchi Gallery with West Contemporary.
A lot of what you do also has a charitable element in the sense that you give back. Talk to me about some of the main charities that you support and why you chose them.
I mean, I've been an ambassador for Save Wild Tigers for a long time now, and I've raised like 55,000 for them. And then recently I've been an ambassador for One Tree Planted, because in 2018 I was showing at the Tate Modern, and I had this opportunity to do quite an experimental installation where I did an open apology on behalf of the human race for the destruction that we've caused to nature. And so I did this like 10-meter scroll and then projected the sound waves of the letter onto the walls of the Tate. And at that point, it's when I released my mission to plant 8,888 trees in the Amazon. And I'm at like 8,050 or something, so like so close. And that really came about because I was thinking about, because obviously I'm printing on paper as one of my mediums, and I was thinking about like my personal consumption, and and obviously I use eco paper and stuff like that, but I was still thinking about the trees, like how many trees is this? And so I wanted to make sure that my personal responsibility was way beyond what I was taking. And I think we should all think like that. And so I set up a number that I felt a bit uncomfortable with, and also that's the number, and 8 is a symbol for infinity. And for each tree that you plant, like the seeds scatter and more trees grow. So it felt like the right number. So yeah, so I'm really passionate about planting trees. But it's such a huge thing. Like we need to plant like 1 trillion trees, and they need to be so diverse, and it's a complex thing. But I think it's really important to like not get overwhelmed by like the enormity of what we need to do for climate change. It's like just taking personal responsibility for doing your own little bit, and if everybody feels like that and acts like that, then real change happens. So yeah, that's a big I'm really passionate about that.
Lauren Baker chatting to Tanya there, and the Start Art Fair runs at the Saatchi from the 12th to the 16th of October. Now, in London, the seated number of diners in restaurants has fallen short of pre-pandemic levels and is lower compared to the UK overall. Well, to remedy that, the restaurant booking website OpenTable has started a new initiative called Dine London, encouraging us to fall back in love with restaurants, using 2 new pop-ups and coming to King's Cross and the South Bank. Well, James has been speaking to Poppy O'Toole, best known by her 3 million TikTok followers as Poppy Cooks or the Potato Queen, and she's been lending her support to the scheme.
In September 2022, about 14% less people going out for food in London. So, that is a massive drop from what it was years previous. So we're just trying to make sure, people are still remembering that they can pop out. And I know it's tough and everything, but it is an incredible place to be eating in London. And, some of the best restaurants in the world are in London, but there's so many other things to see as well. And so many different places that you can go and eat and just enjoy yourself and just have a nice time this autumn. It's a free event to attend. All you have to do is go onto the app and you kind of book tickets through there, and you get to try different foods. So they're doing like classics like British and Italian food, but also these food trends like Greek food, Mexican food, and you get like a 45-minute slot and you get to have like 3 little bites and just see what we've got to offer.
Yeah, you mentioned the economic situation there, and it's perhaps obvious that numbers are down in London restaurants, the most expensive part of the country, as we go through a cost of living crisis. And people don't want to be spending money they don't want to use if they don't have it, and they are fearing for the future as well. And it's not just consumers, it's restaurants. Their rents are going through the roof as well, and their energy bills, of course, are sky high. So how do we counteract that balance, particularly if there isn't enough support as a lot of small businesses see it? And how do we make as many people go to this and start going to their local restaurants as possible?
It is hard. Like it is difficult at this point in time. But if we don't, try and support local businesses and restaurants, then we're not going to have many to go to at some point. So if there's ever a chance that you have that spare bit of cash and you can just save up for a couple of weeks just to have maybe one nice meal, it's so difficult, and it's such a difficult question to answer because I don't have all of the answers. But all you can do is where you can support, and that works in both ways. It's terrible for the restaurants at the minute with, like you said, the cost of living, with the energy prices for them, but they need their supporters and they need people to go and eat, otherwise they're not going to be here.
In terms of what you do as well.
This is your daily reminder that potatoes are the most versatile food on the planet.
Tell us a little bit about how what you do on your platforms is trying to help people as well. And also, if you could tell me how you became the Potato Queen. Why potatoes?
Well, for me, on my platforms, I just want to teach people how to cook. I want to make sure that they can cook in a better way, maybe. I know, obviously, most people can make a little bit of something. They can whip something up. But what I want to show you is how to make it even better at home. But with potatoes, I think it's just, they are just the best thing in the world. They're versatile, they're delicious, they're starchy, they're just tasty. And I think what it was is that when we were in our proper lockdowns back many, many years ago now, it feels like forever ago, I just did a few potato recipe videos and people started to enjoy them. So I just carried on and I just forced people to keep watching my potato videos until they loved them. And I think because they're such like a cheap, versatile ingredient and not very scary, you know, they're not intimidating in any way, potatoes are. I think people just love them. And I mean, who doesn't love a crispy, crunchy, fluffy potato?
There we go. That was Poppy O'Toole, the potato queen there. Right, let's take a final look at the weather before we leave you. It's a clear night this evening with overnight lows dipping into single digits before a sunny and dry start to Saturday that should continue throughout the day. The sun will stay on Sunday but will be met with clouds before the possibility of some strong winds and showers to close out the weekend. More of the same on Monday morning, sunny intervals and a gentle breeze with highs of 17. Well, that's all from the news team this evening. For more coverage, do follow our social channels at London Live, and we'll be back tomorrow morning with London's Weekend. See you then.